This week on The Real Housewives of Miami.
Nobody here thinks what you did was okay. Nobody thinks
really,
it. Nobody
it's
thinks
horrible.
it. And I'm not here to take accountability and counsel about who thinks what, right?
Do you care about
right?
what? But do you care about
How is it
what
affecting you? Is my question. I'm not saying sorry for it.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the new episode of The Real Housewives of Miami, Season 7, Episode 8. Let's get right into it. Alright, so the opening scene is Julia and Martina. They talk a little bit about the boys, and Julia talks to Martina about the stunt that Guerdy pulled at her event. Martina says that's not nice, there's no hashing it out after this point, and Julia is starting to feel some type of way because Adriana didn't walk out with her and sort of had Guerdy's back. But what we didn't see in last week's episode was that Julia actually did end up going back into the event. And she said to Guerdy, what was the purpose of you doing that? But of course, she wasn't letting Guerdy talk. So Guerdy walked away and she was like, bye. And why are you even wearing sneakers? It's a gala. And so here at this scene, though, Julia is trying to act like a victim once again, and she's being disingenuous. She keeps bringing up that, oh, Guerdy and I had a lunch where we agreed to move forward, but Julia seems to forget that she's the one who brought this issue back at the narcissist party. Anyway, Julia and Martina, they've become so unlikable. I just can't. They can go next season. They really can. The next scene is Stephanie and Larsa. They go over to Masood's house. This house used to be Masood's and his ex-wife. That's where they lived. Ever since he left her and he's been with Stephanie, they've been living in a condo. But now they're going to work on this house and they're completely renovating it from the inside. Like, it's literally going to be a new house because Stephanie wants it to be like hers and not like the ex-wife's. It's huge. It's unbelievably big. I mean, the closet itself is going to be 1,000 square feet. And that's just a closet. The backyard is ridiculous. It's like literally the size of a strip mall's parking lot. That's how big her backyard is. Very, very big. The cost of the renovation is going to be out of this world. Maybe even more than buying a new house, which I get obviously why Stephanie doesn't want it to be like the ex-wife's house, and I get that. But Stephanie, just buy a new house. Why would you waste all this money to make it quote unquote new when the house is still the house? Even if it's new or not, it's still the house where the wife used to live at. You can actually just get a new one. Problem solved. It's not like y'all don't have the money. Her and Larsa also talk about the event and how crazy it got with Alexia and Stephanie. Stephanie's like, I've yet to go to an event that goes well. Now, the thing is, before Guerdy's event, Larsa and Keke had actually planned an event on a boat. So the other day, after Guerdy's event, Keke and Larsa had to meet up and split the boat in two. So, because so many people were fighting, and they literally had to sit there and put names on sticky notes and divide their group and be like, okay, so this one's having an issue with that one, so she can't be there, but then this one is mad with that one and this one, so they had to really think about it and determine who's going to be on what yacht. Larsa says it's going to be fun, though. Moving along, Alexia's son Peter goes over to her house. Alexia and Frankie moved into a house that they are renting after she left Todd. Alexia claims that she doesn't talk to the kids about Todd because of everything they've gone through. So recently, Frankie was diagnosed with diverticulitis, and that's something that's mainly your diet affects that. So they've had to work on that. Frankie was actually at the hospital for a few days because he had been vomiting before they knew exactly what was the reason why. And unfortunately, being at the hospital, it brought back the feeling or the memories of when Alexia and Peter were in the hospital when Frankie had the car accident. So that was hard for Alexia and Peter. You can tell that it really affects them to this day. So I really do feel bad for them that they went through that. Peter is 32. He low-key still looks like a bum, not trying to be rude, but as long as he can stay out of legal trouble or trouble at all, I'm sure he'll be fine. So in the next scene, Dr. Nicole Martin is back. I was so happy to see her. She came into the scene. She strolled onto the scene with a $96,000 Hermes bag. I can't imagine carrying something with that much value. Could you imagine just casually carrying a Birkin that's worth $96,000? Oh my gosh. Nicole looks better than ever. Remember, she had a daughter. That time when she had her daughter, though, was a little chaotic. So the baby came earlier than she was supposed to. And don't forget, her dad had just passed away unexpectedly not too long before the daughter was born. She has had postpartum, but I really applaud her for choosing to walk away from this season because she really did need that time off. There's nothing like your peace of mind. It's like the same thing with Candace Dillard from Potomac. She left the show right before getting pregnant, or I don't know if she was pregnant, but she left and she had her pregnancy, she had the baby, and I'm glad that these housewives can be mature enough to say, I need to step back right now. Like, I need to focus on what I'm going on right now. So that's great. So then Guerdy has a crazy idea to call Stephanie. And the reason it's crazy is because Nicole's partner, Anthony, used to date Stephanie back in the day. Nicole's like, I mean, there's got to be some similarities. So Guerdy FaceTimes her, and it was actually a very nice call. They didn't make it weird at all. They were like, hey, how are you? And Stephanie says she used to be blonde, and Nicole was like, well, what if I dye my hair like yours, red? So it was nice. What I didn't like was that in her confessional, Stephanie went back and said, oh, well, yeah, I dated Anthony, blah, 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 but my private jet is bigger. Maybe she didn't mean harm by it, but why ruin such a nice moment, you know? Anyway, after that, Guerdy tells her about the party she just had. She tells Nicole and how everybody walked out. But she does mention that Stephanie was willing to stay back. But when she told the group that she was going to stay back, that's when Alexia started to go in on her. And she was like, you're kissing Guerdy's ass. Nicole says, yeah, these girls have like these weird alliances. And they can't say when something is wrong that someone's done. She says they got like blinders because she herself, even like with Guerdy, she says that there were some things that Guerdy might have said to Julia or whatever the case may be that she didn't necessarily agree with Guerdy, and she told her. She was able to tell her in a nice way because friends are fair and balanced. But anyway, Nicole just doesn't get what's going on because even after Guerdy's surgery last season, the two that were there in her house right after were her and Julia. But what they think is going on is that now that Julia is with the quote-unquote cool girls, Marysol and Alexia, she's like sort of switched and become a little bit like this. Guerdy then says to her, what will it take for you to come back to this group? And Nicole says, TBD. Listen, Nicole will be back for sure. I'm glad she did this little scene. Okay, so it's the day of the yachts, 2 yachts. Kiki's yacht has her, Lisa's friend Ebony, and Adriana. And then Larsa's yacht has Larsa, Julia, Marysol, Alexia, and Stephanie. Stephanie is actually not going to stay the entire time because she's going to Canada because Masood has a house over there, and they're going to go have a date night over there later. On one point, they will all come together to have dinner, and Guerdy will join them when it's time for dinner. So Kiki's on her boat telling Adriana that Marysol was actually adamant that she did not want to be in a boat with Adriana. And Adriana's kind of shocked because she didn't think they were going backwards. She thought they were kind of cordial. So for Marysol to be like, I will not be in a boat with Adriana, she's like, whoa. And this got Adriana activated. She's like, Marysol's got zero talent. And it's funny that the boats are literally sailing like together. But Adriana is going off about Marysol's manipulative, she's got fake designer bags, she's evil. But it was kind of funny the way she was saying it. And she's getting lit, so that's definitely, I think, adding to it. Stephanie and Alexia, they're able to be nice to each other. Alexia does, say to her, I didn't like that you said that I barked at you the other night. And Stephanie's like, well, you did. And then Alexia, she keeps a smile on her face, but she's like, well, you're the one that's screaming like a little chihuahua, actually. I'm more of like a Rottweiler. But, yeah, you're the one. And then Stephanie's like, no, but you barked first. So, yeah, they kind of had that little exchange. It wasn't, like, super, like, it's not like they were mad, but it was kind of passive-aggressive-ish with a smile on their face. So, at this point, the girls are outside their boats, and they can see the other girls from the other boat. So, Adriana, she comes out, and she's like, Stephanie, you're in the wrong boat. So, Marisol's like, okay, está loca. So, Adriana says, Marysol, you induce all the craziness. And then Marisol's like, yeah, that's why I'm not going over there. I didn't want to be in that boat. So Adriana's like, yeah, I heard you didn't want to be on this boat. But how about you stop manipulating everyone? F off, you old whore. Of course, Julia and Larsa are like saying Adriana isn't being nice. Adriana says, they lured my best friend in there because she's trying to be with the cool girls. But one day she'll realize they're not the cool girls. Get some plastic surgery on your bony knees. She says it to Marysol. She was going off. So a little bit later, a little boat goes to pick up Stephanie, so she leaves. Then some of the girls get on some jet skis. Then the girls that were on Kiki's boat, they sneaked into Larsa's boat with water guns. And it was funny. They literally sneaked in. They were sort of crawling so they wouldn't be caught. And then they start blasting them with the water guns. They kind of all laughed about it, but Maris was the only one that sort of had an attitude. Adriana says, she's the wicked witch, that's why she might melt. I'm Glinda, though. Marisol's like, it's not funny. And Adriana's like, yes, you have no sense of humor, which is true. Lighten up. You're all by the water. Calm down. Now, they have about an hour before dinner. So Julia and Adriana talk. Julia asks Adriana, why didn't you walk out with me the other night at Guerdy's event? Adriana says, because there needs to be someone to mediate. Julia says, no, what Guerdy did was wrong. Adriana says, yeah, but there needs to be somebody to bring some sense into the situation. Julia says, Guerdy has to do that herself. So Adriana says, well, why did you go and talk to Alexia and Marysol about me last year? Julia says, well, I was just trying to help y'all. And Adriana's like, well, that's what I was trying to do too. Julia says, well, anyway, Guerdy is coming later. She'll probably come in throwing things on at me. Will you hold her accountable? But then that's where I was like, wait a minute, pause. Did you just say Guerdy might come in throwing things at you when the only one that's ever done that here has been you? Why are you lying and painting Guerdy to be something that she's not, Julia? I don't like that. Adriana is right when she said that Julia doesn't like to be called out. So it's a little bit later. They've all gotten ready and it's time for dinner. Guerdy has arrived. She had this hot pink dress. The food looked very good. Kiki brought a little taste from Haiti. That food looked good for sure. I kind of wanted to try it. So they're eating. Things are a little awkward. So Lisa's like, let's all go around. Let's do an exercise. Say one nice thing about each other. Marysol and Adriana, you go first. So Adriana's like, okay, I mean, I like her fashion and she's very loyal to Alexia. So then Marysol's like, let me think. Well, it's cool that she plays the piano. Lisa then says, Guerdy and Julia. And I was like, oh no, too soon. But Guerdy's very mature. She says Julia actually has a compassionate heart, and that shows with your new boys who you are going to be giving a fabulous future to. Julia says, well, you throw fabulous parties. I also appreciate how you share your emotions without any, well, I just can't hide my emotions. I'm like the worst actress in the world. But I gotta be honest, I thought that after our lunch, we were moving forward. So Guerdy says, yes, and I thought we were moving forward as well, and it hurt me that you took it back at Alexia's narcissist party. Julia's like, well, Daniel was there, and he was there to help us. Julia, please, okay? That hocus pocus influencer was in there to help y'all. Alexia then jumps in, and she says to Guerdy, why did you do that at your event? No one here thinks that what you did was okay. Do you even care what we think? And Guerdy's like, no, like, why does that affect you? I'm not apologizing for it. It was a reaction to what I thought was a betrayal. You walked out, and you walked out as if I showed a D-pic. Alexia's like, she says, well, I would have rather seen the D-pic. Okay, Alexia, go to Kenya Moore Salon then. Marysol then joins in, and she says, You included us. You did it in front of all of us. Guerdy says, yes, just like she assaulted me at your wedding in front of everyone. You don't want to listen to my side of the story. I get it. Meanwhile, Adriana is somewhere getting a drink. She's out of it. Also, the crazy thing is that at the event, no one actually read the messages that Guerdy put up. Alexia says, what you did made us all feel like maybe you could do the same thing to us too. So Guerdy says, well, she could throw water at you too. Marysol's like, well, we didn't condone that either. Guerdy then says to Julia that if they want to talk, have a conversation, she's open to that. And Julia says, okay. So that was it for the night. I didn't realize it, but they actually stayed on the yachts, because we then see them the next morning and they're all waking up. So this was like the very last scene. So Larsa FaceTimes Stephanie while she's sitting with Alexia Marysol. So Stephanie picks up. She says that she'll be back in a few hours. They literally only went to Canada for a date night, so they'll be back. Stephanie then asks, did y'all have fun? And they're kind of filling her in. And she then says, where's the Rugweiler? And Alexia's like, F you, Stephanie. I actually have a name. And then Stephanie's like, I'm joking. You yourself called yourself a Rugweiler. What's going on? But Alexia was mad, you guys. And that was the end of the episode. But I actually do think Stephanie was joking. I think the way she said it, like, oh, where's the Rugweiler? Because Alexia said that about herself. She was like, you're a Chihuahua. I'm a Rugweiler. So you can't be mad that she said it jokingly when you called yourself that. I really do think she was joking. But Alexia took that way too personally. But you guys, that was the end of the episode. What were your thoughts about it? Marysol and Alexia were definitely trying to gaslight Guerdy, but Guerdy's still giving Julia grace by letting her, talk about their issue. And it looks like they're going to talk about that more next week. So you guys, please let me know what your thoughts and opinions were. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a great one. Bye.